Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're logging in from. My name is Brad Manning. Welcome to the fourth part in our webinar series of trainings. This is on the CoPilot. I'll be your presenter. We also have Matthew Gomolka, who will be fielding any questions. Your mics have been muted, so if you're going to ask a question, you'll need to use the chat or the question and answer bar. We prefer you use the question and answer bar, as we can keep track of the questions asked. Once again, I want to thank you for attending, and let's get started. We've got the soft touch next Tuesday on the 16th at 9 a.m. The Pool Pilot Professional the following Tuesday, June the 23rd. ORP/Total Control on the 30th at 3 p.m. And Water Chemistry on July the 7th at 3 p.m. We also have our factory direct phone number for you technicians that are out in the field. This will allow you to call and get put directly into the queue to speak to a technical support agent or one of our customer support agents. This is a number that's not available to everybody. It's just field technicians. We also have our videos on YouTube for simple how-tos. That's a forever growing library of videos that you can go log into. This is our CoPilot, partnered with our salt systems. It's the best of both worlds. You got ozone generation with salt. Corona discharge is 4 times the concentration of ozone that UV is. Polishes the water. It oxidizes contaminants. Controls chlorine odors, reduces chlorine use, and extends cell life. It can retrofit in any of the systems that are autopilots that you have in existence. The Pool Pilot chlorine generator works with the ozonator to give you the best of both worlds. It kills 99% of all the microorganisms that can get into your pool. Ozone destroys everything. Cryptosporidium, E. coli, Ebola, any microorganisms. It's 200 times the oxidizer that chlorine is. It's it's environmentally friendly because it only has about a 20-second shelf life. So by the time it makes it back to your pool, basically the bubbles coming out of your return are nothing but pure oxygen. Ozone reduces the need for chlorine by 60 to 90%. This is, this allows you to keep your pool at a lower chlorine residual and still keep the pool looking good because you've got the ozone doing all the heavy lifting, taking care of all the contaminants. This is our CoPilot with a Nano. It's a 2 Corona discharge cell power supply, and the part number you see listed at the top. That's for the whole good unit. This is the XL, which is the larger unit, which has 4 Corona discharge cells. Partnered with the larger system, Dig 220 Soft Touch or 75003. This is a retrofit kit for the smaller CoPilot. And this is the XL there again, the larger one with the 4 Corona discharge cells for the larger autopilots. You have your power supply that goes on the wall, and then you have our patented manifold with the Venturi in it. The ozone tube, there's a check valve in that ozone tube to prevent water from making it back up to the power supply. You've got a 5-pound check valve in our bottom manifold down here. So if you're doing a retrofit, you want to be sure that you remove the old bottom manifold and plumb the new manifold in, because an old manifold that doesn't have a CoPilot has a 3-pound check valve here, where this is a 5-pound check valve. We want to force more water up through the Venturi. You'll also notice that the tri-sensor has been moved down here on a normal manifold or normal upper manifold. The tri-sensor is located at the top. But as I said, ozone's 200 times the oxidizer that chlorine is. So If we left the tri-center up here, it'd eat the flow paddle away. The manifold should be installed downstream of all pool equipment and on the pool return line only. If your water can exceed 70 gallons per minute, we need you to install a secondary bypass. You want to use a 5-pound check valve here. Preferably, I mean, you can use ball valves, but ball valves have handles and homeowners like to turn handles. So we highly recommend using a 5-pound check valve here. That'll take anything that's 5 pounds or less and divert it up to the upper manifold. This 5-pound check valve would take anything 5 pounds or less and divert it to the upper manifold. Tips on installation. You know, it's okay to use the power from the AutoPilot provided it's tied in to the pool pump time clock. Or if you've bought a Ditch 220 or 75003 that is running your pool pump, you can tie the CoPilot in to the load side of the AutoPilot. So when the pump turns on, the CoPilot turns on. The unit is to only be on when the pump is running. If you put it on the line side or you have it powered all the time, it's gonna generate ozone whenever it's got power. So the pump has to be on to create the venturi to evacuate the ozone from the system. The system needs to be installed 12 inches above the max water line. You do not want to install this below grade. If you install it below grade, the pool water pressure, if that check valve fails, you're going to wind up with a flooded power supply. You also probably want to install a check valve, into the pump return line before the injector point or our manifold. That way, when the pump shuts off, the ozonator is still going to allow air into the system. So to keep it from, having a hard time to prime, you want a check valve there to keep the water inside the pump. And you want to cut off any excess green tubing, like with the cell cords and the tri-sensor cords, we always wrap them up and coil them up and zip time or whatever else. With the ozone system, you don't want to do any of that. You don't want to do anything that might prevent the flow of air through that venturi. So you want to cut the hose to fit. And, you need to watch out for excess back pressure. And, preferably in-floor cleaning systems, they can create back pressure switching between zones, so on and so forth. You want to try to prevent putting our manifold on those lines. This is the inside of the power supply. You've got the current of discharge cells and modules, the ozone modules, the manifold here that the ozone is injected into. You've got the flow control assembly. This prevents any moisture from getting inside the system. And, with moisture inside the system, you can create what's called a caustic acid. You have your terminal block. This is where your incoming power comes. This is the evacuation point, or where the ozone leaves the system. You got your bonding lug, ground lug, bonding lug. This is to be tied off with all the other pool equipment. Got your external fuse holder. Each current of discharge cell has its own indicator light. You always want to disconnect the power, turn the power off whenever working inside of here. Touch the wrong thing inside of here with power on it, you're gonna get lit up. On the troubleshooting, it's pretty simple. No airflow. You're gonna check the venturi to see if it's blocked. You'd simply undo the hose, stick your finger over the injection point, and with the pump on, and see if you feel any suction there. If you don't feel any suction where the hose is attached to the manifold, then you've got a blocked or clogged venturi. I found that a paper clip, if you keep a paper clip on the truck, you can use that paper clip to stick down inside the injector port and clear up any blockage that may be there. You want to make sure your check valve is functioning properly. The check valves do have an arrow on them, so as to indicate the direction of the flow of air. Sometimes they could be put in backwards. That will definitely prevent air from getting into the manifold. Like I said, any excess line, you don't want that. Any kinks in the hose, all of that will prevent airflow. You want to check your tubing to make sure it's not clogged as well. If you got backflow, typically that backflow is going to be, check valve installed backwards, debris in the injector throat, which can prevent a venturi and actually cause the pressure of the water to go back to the system. The check valve should stop that. Unit installed below grade will definitely create back pressure. And then once again, like I said, if you have anything downstream of it, such as in-floor cleaning systems, that, if they get stuck between zones or whatever else, that can create back pressure. All right, troubleshooting the power supply. Once again, like I said, it's pretty simple. Each individual current of discharge cell has its own indicator light. So if all the ozone lights are gone or not lit up, you need to check the incoming power. Go to your breaker box, make sure your breaker's on, get your multimeter out, check the incoming power into the unit, make sure the unit is receiving proper power. Now, we'll tell you with these systems, there is no conversion for them. It doesn't matter what incoming voltage you have, 220 or 110, they both hook up to the same terminal strip. So you need to check your incoming voltage and make sure you have it. If you have incoming voltage, then you need to go to your fuse holder, pull your fuse out and do a continuity check on it and make sure you have continuity. If you have continuity, then, it's time to start replacing current of discharge cells. All right. If you have, ozone indicator lights, don't light up, just got a couple of them. If you got a 4-cell system and one or two of them are out, then more than likely it's just the current of discharge cells. You need to replace them. And you can replace them with the APG ozone cells. The part number is APK0052. The bottom of it is just a recap on troubleshooting insufficient airflow. The units do come with a flow detection kit. So it's to be used when you first install it. And what happens is there's a little clear sight glass with a plastic ball in it. You turn the pump on, and if you're dealing with like a variable speed pump, you're going to adjust the RPMs till you see that ball's in the center of the tube. All right, this is just our flow chart for, diagnostics. Incoming power terminal block, from the terminal block to the fuse, from the fuse to the power supply to the ozone module. With the airflow, you've got from the injector to the check valve, the flow meter that I was just telling you about that's temporarily installed when you're first setting the unit up, and then onto the ozone manifold and the ozone cell and then in the air inlet. These are the varying part numbers for the CoPilot. Your APK0017 ozone manifold, that is the manifold that is plumbed in line. On the other side, down below, you see ozone module kit. That's inside the power supply. All of these parts are listed on our parts breakdown catalog on the AutoPilot website. So you can go to the AutoPilot.com website. You can click on resources. And once you click on resources, if you scroll down, you'll see that it lists the AutoPilot parts breakdown catalog. If you have a smartphone, you can download it to your smartphone on a Books app, or you can download it to your computer in a PDF file. Parts breakdown catalog is excellent. There's pictures. Pictures worth 1,000 words when it comes to parts. That pretty much concludes our presentation on the ozone. We have our up and coming soft touch, CoPilot Professional, total control, and water chemistry. Once again, we have our customer support hotline for you technicians out in the field so you can call direct. And we have our YouTube videos. As I said, it's an ever expanding library. I want to thank you for your time. This was probably the quickest presentation we're going to have. I didn't see any questions come through, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Yeah, I didn't see any questions, Brad, but yeah, this is just an easy add-on. And I would add that we don't see a whole lot of service issues or failures with these.
No, the biggest failure I see in these systems is when people wire them line side, which means the system sits there and generates ozone, but the pump's not running, so there's nothing to evacuate the ozone from the system. Outside of that, I mean, we didn't reinvent the wheel here. We partnered up with Dell Ozone, who's been doing ozone for as long as we've been doing salt. It's an excellent system, and
Yeah.
like I said,
The second generation system too. So the Corona discharge cells are seem to be a lot more reliable and last a lot longer than the.
Oh yeah, well, if any of you guys are familiar with Dell ozonators, they used to have the one that looked like the car stereo amp. Those things had a turret transformer in it. And, unfortunately, if anything ever happened to the turret transformer, it would take out the Corona discharge cells. Delzone went through and revamped their whole system. And as I said earlier, in wiring this thing, you don't have to order it 110 or 220. It takes whatever voltage you bring into the unit. There's no turret transformers in it anymore. I mean, it is just straight simplistic. And that's why this presentation isn't very long. There's not a whole lot of troubleshooting to do. Very rarely do I ever see the injectors ever get clogged up. Because the injection is right after our screen. So we're downstream of the filter. Plus we have our screen blocking any debris that might get through there. You've got the flow control assembly, which prevents anything from getting into the air intake going into the ozonator. It's, so you don't spend a whole lot of time troubleshooting it. And as far as the power supply goes, like I said, if you got a 2-cell system and one light's green and the other one's out, it's the Corona discharge cell. Same thing with the 4-cell system, 2 on, 2 off, Corona discharge cell. You get there and there's no lights. Now you got to start troubleshooting incoming power, and on down the line. But it's a very simplistic system.
All right. Well, I don't see any questions.
Yeah, don't see any questions either. Once again, I want to thank you for coming, and just remember that all AutoPilot products are manufactured in the USA.
All right. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. You guys have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you may be logged in at.